Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of the Next Gen Bets podcast.
We got some college football to talk about. A lot happened since last we met. The playoff games have happened, um, and one of us is exceptionally happy, and one of us is not.
Yeah, and I'm the one that's exceptionally happy. We're just gonna cut it off. We're gonna rip the Band-Aid off. Notre Dame beat Georgia. I'm high on life. As a lifelong Notre Dame fan, that is the first big win I've ever witnessed in my 21 years on Earth. And it feels great. It really does. I'm starting to understand how Kyle feels when he watched Clemson have their dynasty and everything that they did. We're not there yet, but it does
Hey,
feel.
you beat us once. That was big for you at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you know it's sad. But like.
But to be clear, fair, that was against DJ, so we should kind of like pull that back
Yeah, no, we're not pulling it
in
back,
in
but
hindsight. Like
it
if we
was
could vacate that, maybe
no, no,
just
no, it's not vacated.
any
Very
Clemson game
valid.
with DJ in it, we can just vacate.
But dude, let me tell you, it was so good. I watching that whole game, it was amazing. The beginning was a bit of a roller coaster, I'm not gonna lie. But then once the end of the second quarter started rolling around, it was great. And then, you
Bro,
start the second half the way
yeah.
we did.
So
Go ahead.
you didn't bet on it. You just had fan interest. I had Georgia money line, and I was in love with it. And I've been thinking. We talked like an hour ago, like kind of just through the game and like how we thought about it. I think I'd still bet that, like going into it. Like I just the way Georgia played, like or didn't play, I guess is a better word for it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that this has. I feel like this game itself saved the playoff. Like and along with Texas. But like after the Oregon game and the way the Texas game started, and then the way the Penn State game went, like everyone was like, "Oh, this playoff is pretty bad." But it wasn't a super close game, Notre Dame and Georgia. But like we had a game that like yeah, Notre Dame won comfortably, but like it at least felt close, you know.
Yeah, it was close. It was
And
really,
it's
honestly, it was close the entire game up until the that fake punt that we drew
yes,
Georgia
that
off.
was that was
That
the
was the nail
dagger.
in the coffin. Like that kind
That
of
was the dagger.
but up until that point, and I don't remember exactly how long was left in the game when that happened, but up until then, the game was still like winnable for Georgia. Like I remember
Yeah,
telling
there was
I was like, what I'm like, this is what's gonna happen here. Notre Dame is gonna they're gonna have a three and out, or no, Georgia had the ball. So I'm like, they're gonna let Georgia score. We're gonna have a three and out as Notre Dame. We're gonna punt, and then we're gonna give Georgia the ball with like less than 2 minutes left, and they're gonna drive down the field and score the game winning touchdown, because that's just kind of how it works with us. I told that to Kyle, and I'm like, so that tells you how close it was late in the game.
yeah,
And
that was right before Georgia got stopped on fourth and goal at
yeah,
the like
yeah,
7.
yeah. So like that kind of goes to show you how close the game was. There's a lot of people that are like, they're the box score people. They just look at the box score and that's how they judge the game. And they say
But
that the game
like if you look at if
was close.
you just look at the box score on the final, it's oh yeah, Notre Dame killed them. But if you look at the stats, Notre Dame or Georgia outgained Notre Dame. They
By a
had
lot.
more like double the passing yards. Notre Dame obviously had the rush yards, like chewing the clock and stuff. But first half Georgia, I still think they have them.
Hmm.
They had way more. Georgia's offense scored more than Notre Dame's offense. It was
Hmm.
Notre Dame's defense got a turnover that led to a one play touchdown, and the Notre Dame special teams had an amazing kick return touchdown. It's like, and Georgia's offense also had with two fumbles, with the one in the first half, and then one right at the end of the first
Yeah.
half that led to the touchdown. So it's like Notre Dame did great. Like I'm not taking it away the way we kind of talked down on some of the other games in the playoff. It was like more of the team that lost being garbage. I kind of like we kind of just crapped on Indiana
Hmm.
when that game happened. But it wasn't like Notre Dame did what they had to do, and the special teams coach in Notre Dame deserves like a double salary for
Yeah.
these fake punts because they did that against Indiana too, and it worked. Um, but Georgia, I've never seen Georgia play that sloppy.
Yeah, it was a sloppy game, but
Like two fumbles. Stockton was actually pretty good, I thought.
no, yeah, Stockton played well. I think he played very good. He was making some really good throws. There was a lot of issues when it comes to it was a lot of bad things. Like Georgia had that one touchdown that was dropped essentially. It was a touchdown. It was dropped. It wasn't
Yes,
in
and
the end
it
zone,
they
but it was
did
going
end
to be a
up scoring
touchdown.
that drive, so that one didn't really hurt them. But it was like we have never seen Georgia ever be that sloppy.
Yeah, like that was
Like
a
that's
big
like
drop. That was
one
going
of
to be
their
a touchdown.
things, and one of the reasons we bet on them, or I bet on them, was like Georgia's the fundamental team that will just win, like literally with any quarterback, like with Stetson Bennett, like not a top prospect. They just won because they wouldn't do stuff like that to let you stay in the game. And here they did it. I was waiting for it to flip. Like second half, they got the touchdown. I was like, all right, now they're gonna, play solid football. Their O line did not do anything. Like
No.
Notre Dame's D linemen and special teams deserve the biggest like round of applause for the way they played.
Yep. Yeah, no. It was cool to watch though, because like Notre Dame just we're I mean obviously they're both sides are missing. Obviously Georgia was missing their quarterback, but Notre Dame was missing some key players in their defense. And so to see that our defense played as good as they did, missing who they were missing, that was awesome to see. And like the our defensive line was just so undersized compared to Georgia. It literally felt like we talked about this. We talk about this on the podcast too. It's like with Clemson, they were just outmanned against Texas. Like they just did, the guys were just they were too big. And that's kind of how it is with Georgia. And it's like, damn, Georgia's players are
Yeah,
just
that's what we thought because
they're
because
gonna bitch
Georgia
around. They're
beat
gonna do whatever they
Texas.
want. Yeah, they're gonna do whatever they want to us. And so being able to watch Notre Dame just pretty much do whatever they wanted to Georgia's oversized offensive line, and then
And
being
D
able
line.
to run the ball very well on Georgia's
Yeah.
massive defensive line. Like just being able to
And
watch
they're
Notre Dame do
they're
that was awesome.
running like every Notre Dame run, it seemed like all both tackles would like pack in and they would just wait. Like Riley Leonard or Jeremiah Love would wait and then they'd run out of sight. Like it's almost like every run seemed like that wasn't the design. Like it wasn't like they were running like 26 duo or a trap. Like it was
Mhm.
just straight up just wait and then beat linebacker as soon as the linebackers sink in, beat him out to the edge, and then they were running through corners. Riley Leonard hurdled a corner one of the plays.
Yeah.
Like it was it was like it started to look unintentional at the start, and then they kept doing it. It was like, oh, they have to be doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
And it was like the good job. Like that's the way they it worked. It was impressive. Like
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't the way I thought it would go at
no,
all.
it was awesome to watch. It really was awesome to watch. So I'm feeling pretty good. Got to focus on Penn State now though.
Yeah,
I'm not feeling
what was the
great.
stat, Connor? Was it 17 points in 25 seconds?
Yeah, 17 points in
Just
25 seconds
insane.
with
Insane.
the um we kicked I believe we kicked a field goal
Yeah,
at the
field
end of the
goal
second
and
half,
then
and
fumble
then Gunnar
touchdown.
Stockton fumbled it,
Yep,
and then we had the one play touchdown, and then to open up the second half, we
the
ran
kick
back
return.
a touchdown.
Yeah,
So
just insane.
yeah, so 17 points in 25 seconds, which is insane, and it literally separated the entire game. And then Notre Dame was able to play from in front, which is kind of mandatory for Notre Dame. If they were playing from behind against Georgia, we would not be talking about Notre Dame winning right now. Georgia would have been able to do kind of like their own thing, and I think that's part of the reason that Notre Dame got that upper hand is Georgia did get sloppy because they were playing from behind. Like that end of that first half, that was Georgia playing from behind and being sloppy. Like that was sloppy football because they were trying to make a splash before they went into halftime, and they couldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody will say, "Oh, that's because they don't have Carson Beck." Carson Beck fucking sucks. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
he made Carson Beck makes no difference on their
These
lack of
fucking
offensive line.
commentators last night, dude, were talking about, oh, if that was Carson Beck, they would be able to, like, they really take advantage of the fact that they have Carson Beck. Dude, no one takes advantage. The other team takes advantage of the fact that Georgia has Carson Beck. Like, Carson Beck
Yeah.
fucking sucks. Don't say here and say that's the reason that they lost. It's not. Gunnar Stockton's good. He was throwing dots. He was doing really well, making proper reads, doing
Yeah,
what he could
without
out
the
of the
fumble, he
pocket.
had a pretty perfect game. Like
Yeah,
that's all you
and
can
even the
ask.
fumble, it was a blindside. Like he got
Yeah, for and
his blindside.
it's his first start.
Yeah, first start that big of a game against people don't respect them, but a good Notre Dame defense, like a really good defense.
And they
That's
proved it.
that's
They
good.
proved
Yeah.
it.
No, they proved they I wish they did a little bit more with their secondaries, but they proved that they're a pretty good team. So I'm happy with everything.
Yeah.
I can't complain. Um, but we'll talk about other games too, because there
Yeah,
were
let's talk about the. I want to talk about the Rose Bowl here, quick. So we had a bet in this game. We had the under, and that one was kind of screwed from the jump, but it did only end up losing by I believe 6 points. So everyone likes to make it like, oh, the over was a lock, over was a lock. They only got to 62 total. Final score of 41. Ohio State 41, Oregon 21. The line was 55 and a half. So it really didn't clear by like this amazing margin that everybody keeps talking about, like the Ohio State's offense is amazing. Like they kind of slowed down the second. I mean, they could slow down the second half, and they did. And I think that's the best game we've ever seen Ohio State play, like just overall for them. And so we were kind of talking about it going into Texas. Hey, can Ohio State put together really a third? like top performance because they did it against Tennessee, they did it now against Oregon, but against Michigan, that was the worst we've seen them all season. So it's like they put back to back A plus performances following like a D performance. So um, I think if they put up an A, obviously they're gonna win. But if they give a B or a C performance, I think Texas has a real shot there. So that'll be interesting moving the week forward. And then my other point is teams with a bye went 0 and 4. And obviously Oregon was the number one overall seed, Georgia was the number two overall seed. Um, SM or Boise losing and Arizona State losing is not really shocking. I think a lot of people obviously predicted that they're the favorite or underdogs going into those games. But the two teams that got the bye that were, the overall 1 and 2 seed both lost and they both lost bad.
Yeah,
Um,
by 33
so
total points combined.
what do we think about the buys?
Well, I think it's kind of known that buys. Nick Saban said it earlier in the year. Nobody's talking about that either. I remember him saying it. They're not talking about him how he said it earlier, but he literally said earlier in the year that if he were a head coach, he would play to not get the buy. So he would do whatever he had to do, like to get to make it so that he played in that first round because then you get momentum, especially if you're the home team. You get momentum, you get your home crowd. You're not you haven't been sitting, you don't come out rusty, you don't come out flat. Oregon came out flat, straight up they came out flat, and then by the time they got moving they were done. And then Arizona State came out flat. They were down bad to Texas, and then they came out and started moving.
Yeah,
And then
they had a
Boise
good
came out
fight, but
flat, like now Boise got manhandled in the first half, but then they made it a 17-14 game, so they
they
kind of
came out.
continued to talk
Genty
about it.
fumbled twice in the
Yeah,
first half.
he
We've
fumbled twice, which
never
was
seen that from
crazy,
him,
which
and it
was
was weak.
crazy.
They were weak fumbles too.
Yeah. So
It
like
wasn't like he got popped.
yeah, the one was on the sideline. He literally
Like he
dropped it
got
on the sideline.
tapped. He
Yeah.
no, that one was, but the one that the lineman recovered was worse. It was like a tap on the ball, like a reach around to tackle him, just like not a punch, a tap, and the ball went right, like no resistance on it.
Yeah. So like that goes to show. I mean, these teams are coming out flat, and that's what was Nick Saban literally said. That's how it is. And then you even see it like throughout the season. Like that's kind of true. Like you see somebody come off of a bye week. Sometimes they struggle coming off the bye week,
Or
and
they'll
oh,
struggle off of like a touch up week and the cupcake week as we
yeah,
we call it.
yeah. But like now this is an extended bye week. Georgia's last game was in the first week of
Right.
December. I
Yeah.
think they played December 7th or something like that. That was their last
Yep.
game. And then they
Yeah.
played last night. And so
Um, Yeah, so I think the key takeaway is the strategy should be to lose to if you lose to your rival, you lose to your rival or you lose in the conference championship, you get rewarded in this 12 team playoff because we have Penn State and Texas both lost the conference championship. They did far better than the teams that won the conference. So like at least Oregon and Georgia have a conference championship trophy to go home with, but they're not even making it to they didn't win, neither won a playoff game. Um, Clemson, or I mean SMU lost their conference championship. They got at least a bid in compared to SEC fans are going to yell about Bama and South Carolina and Ole Miss who didn't get in. But and then we have Clemson and Penn State who lost to their rivals. Clemson lost to South Carolina, they got in. Penn State lost to Ohio State, they got in. Michigan or Ohio State lost to Michigan, they get in. They got like those two schools got like given the a better path, if you will, by having not having the bye and hosting a first round game. And then um, and Notre Dame kind of really didn't have Notre Dame and Indiana kind of they didn't really have anything all season like similar to that. Like Notre Dame obviously beat their rivals, but as a
yeah.
the strategy is clearly to land somewhere between 5 and 8
Yeah, you
and
want to
have
you
that
want to get
first
that home
round.
field. You want to get that
Yeah.
home field. We all because it also showed that the home field advantage is significant in the
Well, we got that from that game, and I feel like we knew it going in. But then also the money that those two schools are making
yeah,
from hosting that. Like we'll see how that affects. But like as somebody's making a lot of money in that.
100%. Yeah.
And it really doesn't make sense. Like I think we could have like a 2 hour long episode if we wanted to just talk about the issues and flaws with this playoff. But
Yeah.
we could have done that before with the 4 team, to be honest with you. So
Yeah. We'll
don't need to
figure it
waste
out at
time.
some point, hopefully. I think they'll definitely try to make
We're
changes.
definitely closer.
They're definitely
Like
going to make changes after this year because people are definitely very loud about how discontent they are. Now, granted, there's going to be people that are pissed off about it every year for the rest of
Yeah,
the
you're
rest.
always gonna have
Yeah,
whoever's left out is gonna be mad.
yeah, like
So
that's just how it's going to be. So some of the noise is just bullshit. Like whatever, deal with it, move on. But like some of it is valid noise. Like some of it is like okay, like you bring up a fair point. I get it.
yeah, the buys are a fair point, and the home game, like what how you get a home game is a fair point.
Yeah,
Um, but then I think the biggest thing, like promoting this 12 team playoff that I think we're all gonna come to realize soon is Ohio State's the 8th seed, and they look like the favorite, and then we have Notre Dame is 7, Penn State is 6, and Texas is 5. So it's 5 versus 8, 6 versus 7. All would be out of the original four. Actually, I think Texas and Penn State would still be in because they were 3 and 4 in the overall seeding.
yeah.
But Ohio State and Notre Dame would both be out of the original 4 team playoff. So if one of those schools win it, it kind of made me start thinking like from these 4 team playoff years, how many of these do you think any of these teams that missed it could have made, the similar run? And I think there's a handful of them that could have.
Oh, I think you can make that argument probably about every single year, except for a few where there's just juggernaut teams like LSU. They're probably not losing to anybody in
Yeah, the LSU team was
2019.
really good.
And then I think one of the Georgia teams is probably the same, maybe an Alabama team in there, but like, or
Undefeated
Clemson.
Clemson. Yeah.
Yeah, Clemson. Yeah,
But yeah, even in those years, like there's uh a lot of times the loser in the conference championship game is just as good as the winner. And it really just depends on the layout.
yeah. And
Um,
I mean, and it depends on like, no, I think there's just honestly, there's genuine advantages in this playoff, which is I mean, it is what it is, but this is what I enjoy. This is what I wanted. It gives all the other teams a chance. Like it does, it's very unlikely that you're gonna get that miracle 12 seed making a run, but like there's not a single top
well, you're
four,
not gonna get it if you make
you
them
know.
go to the 5 every year.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But like there's not a single top four team left, which is that's exciting in my opinion. I mean, the games weren't as exciting, but and I also think part of the reason that everybody's freaking out about these games is because everybody's watching them. Like, if you really think about it, not many college, I mean, there certainly are a good amount, but not every college football game is going to end in a final possession touchdown to win the game. Like, that's just not how college football works. There normally is a game
No,
where like you
no.
win by a couple possessions. It's very common. Like you win by over a touchdown, like 10 to 7 points. That's normal as hell.
Yeah, we
Because
didn't bet it,
everybody's
but
watching.
we didn't bet it, but we did say the Oregon Ohio State game is gonna be a routing in one way.
Yeah, we said that there
And
was a chance. Yeah, for sure.
And typically, it is the team that loses the first time that
Yeah,
comes back and routes them.
yeah.
We've
But
we've seen it a lot of times.
I mean, I'm content with it. I think it's because my team's still in, but I'm definitely happy with it right now. Not necessarily.
No, it's
There's things to fix for sure, but like I'm not one of those people that's sitting here like, oh, I hate the whole thing. Like, get rid of the
yeah.
whole
The
thing.
second half of Arizona, Texas, or Arizona State, Texas, really saved the entertainment value because at least we had one good game,
Yeah,
and then even like we said, Notre Dame, Georgia. If you box score watch, it's not that exciting, but if you watched it, it was exciting.
yeah. It was pretty exciting.
There's big plays on both sides. Stuff you never blocked punts, running
Yeah,
into the kickers, sideline and like stuff you don't see in football games. And real quick to touch, we had a parlay, Penn State money line and Texas money line. It did get a little sketchy with Texas there. It shouldn't have. We could have had some walk off field goals. But I know that did save a lot of people's over by that game going to overtime. And then I know some people took Texas alt spread at like 7.5, and Texas did, or in 6.5, the touchdown spread. They did end up winning by 8. So um, we don't need to talk too much about Texas because that game's kind of like I just think less important
yeah.
that game. Not to downplay it, but Scadabo's great. I hope the Dolphins draft him. Um, But Texas just bothers me. Like because we're gonna be talking about them in the offseason with whatever Quinn Ewers does. And I know he's gonna do something that bothers me because he's gonna go to like a Big Ten school, get 20 or $6 to $8 million in NIL. And he's not that good. We've seen that now because they have an insane amount of talent and they're not blowing out Arizona State. They didn't run away against Clemson like they should have, or at least they didn't run away in the passing game. They ran away in the ground game. But he's gonna go to like I think Oregon seems to be the consensus right now.
Yeah.
That Ewers is going to go there. I heard Michigan State was in the rumor as well, but I don't think they can bid with Oregon's money.
No,
So
Oregon has unlimited money. So
yeah, and there's some other SEC schools that have unlimited money that could be. in that conversation. Like I don't think I think A&M or no A&M has a quarterback, but as you can see, even almost Georgia could be in the running, but that'd be wild.
I
But
think they Gunner honestly, but yeah, I mean you
they
never know.
they don't have somebody else coming in that's like being given the keys. Like Ohio State was rumored too, but they have saying just waiting. But
Yeah,
that would also be why if he goes back there. But are we ready to move to some NFL, Connor?
I'm ready for NFL. I am.
All right, week 17. This is probably or week 18, I'm sorry. I think this might be one of the worst week 18s in recent memory. Um, we'll see how it goes on Sunday and Saturday, of course. Saturday is actually probably the better day of football. So Saturday we have Cleveland at Baltimore, the nice Baltimore minus 20. And then we have Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, Cincinnati minus 2.5. So that's the close game. Baltimore, the reason I give this game's on Saturday, Baltimore and Pittsburgh are still alive in the divisional race. So if Baltimore loses and Pittsburgh wins the division. Baltimore wins or a Pittsburgh loss, Baltimore clinches the division. That is what expects to happen. Um, so I'm kind of glad they flexed these to Saturday. Kind of not a big fan of the way they did it. Because usually everybody plays at 1 or 4, like the teams that matter. So Baltimore is at 4:30, and then Pittsburgh's at 8. So I have a conditional parlay in the bets. So I guess we can start with that because it is somewhat affected by these games. We have the Chargers money line and Denver money line if the Steelers lose. So the way this would go is if Pittsburgh loses this game to Cincinnati, the Chargers could jump them for the 5 seed in the AFC. And Denver, of course, needs to win to make the playoffs. So that's just kind of putting these two together gets us, close to even odds. It would be minus 135. They'll probably change the odds and it'll be lower because the Chargers will play more starters if Pittsburgh does lose. But the way this would work would be Baltimore wins, giving Pittsburgh less of a reason to try against Cincinnati. And then with Pittsburgh losing, since they're already locked in the playoffs, they'll just be almost accepting the 6 seed. Um, and then we would take the Chargers and the uh, the Broncos to try to get us a nice start on Sunday. Um, Connor also gave us a nice Pittsburgh moneyline bet as we think the Steelers might show up before the playoffs. And this game, and I'm like so unmoved by it.
yeah.
Like
I
Pittsburgh struggled for so long.
I know Pittsburgh has not been doing well recently.
They are
And
due, I'd
Cincinnati
say.
needs to win. Cincinnati's been playing a little bit better. But that's the thing. That's why I picked Pittsburgh is because Cincinnati is that they just their offense is what carries them, and I'm just kind of going under the assumption that maybe Pittsburgh's defense can be there in Pittsburgh for us on Saturday, and they'll be able to win it because I'm not really worried about Pittsburgh being able to score on Cincinnati. It's more so Pittsburgh stopping Cincinnati from scoring on them. And so kind of banking on the fact that Pittsburgh actually shows up. I liked the fact that it was plus money. That was attractive to me, so
Yep,
I went with it. I
plus
kind of
112 currently.
yeah, plus 112, so I took it. And we're running with it. We're running with it. See what happens.
Yep. And then also from this Saturday, we cooked up a nice double your money parlay at plus 100. We have Lamar Jackson, 150 passing yards, Russell Wilson, 175 plus passing yards, and then Joe Burrow, 250 plus passing yards. Lamar, I believe, has like a stat where he's like 16 for 16 or something on 150 pass yards. So we like that. And the odds stay low for him because he's, obviously a running quarterback, and they may not need him to throw the ball more than 3 times this game. Like if they wanted to have him not throw it all, they probably could, and they'd still win. And then Russell Wilson, 175. They get Pickens is active, and if the Pittsburgh money line is going to hit, like we bet on that, Russ is going to have to throw for a decent chunk, and or they could be just getting killed and he'll get garbage time throws. But Cincinnati's secondary isn't the best. And then 250 for Burrow. He's been absolutely balling, as everybody knows. This is his kind of last chance to, make another statement for MVP. He's not going to win it, but he can at least throw for, 300 and rack up some nice touchdowns and fantasy points and look great and whatever. So I like this probably a lot on Saturday. To make this game that really doesn't entertain me too much, just because I feel like Baltimore's just going to wrap up the division, then Pittsburgh's not going to care too much. So this will make it a little bit more interesting. The reason I don't care for these games much, because I feel like people may get mad at that, is with Baltimore playing at 4:30. Once they win, Pittsburgh's like, oh, okay, we can't win the division anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
usually they make these types of situations, they make you play at the same time. So
Yeah, that is the one thing that I'm worried for the Pittsburgh bet is like that they'll realize because they play after they play like they'll know the result of Baltimore before they go onto the
yeah,
field. So
like they don't need to clinch the playoffs. They're already in. They're
yeah,
just, are they going to have to go to Houston, which they should want to go to Houston, because Houston hasn't looked great, or are they going to have to go to Baltimore? But I feel like part of them wants to go to Baltimore and knock them out. So, but also it seems like Steelers just get their playoff bid, get their positive record,
yeah, record, yeah.
and then check out. Um, but moving on to Sunday, there are some good games. We're gonna skip some of the bad ones and kind of really only focus on the games with any sort of importance. This is what I mean. Like when I said this isn't a great weekend, the games that have some importance are pretty bad. So the first one with any sort of relevance would be Carolina at Atlanta. Atlanta's still alive in the division. They have to win their part, and they would need the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also play at one, hosting the Falcon or the Saints to lose. But Tampa Bay is minus 14. So really nothing to do here. Like you could bet both of these teams to win, and I think it'd be about like minus 210 when I toss that in there just to check. It's I don't think it's worth betting unless you really want to, which I mean, I may end up doing this anyway because I think both Tampa and Atlanta will win. But is it worth sitting there watching NFC South football um, with the whatever amount of money you'd have to put on to get the to whatever your unit size is because it's going to be such a negative bet. They're kind of like what we did with the Penn State and Texas. Just wasn't worth, or the stress was almost not worth it in hindsight because of how that Texas game went. And then the 4 o'clock window is slightly interesting. We have Kansas City at Denver. Kansas City resting their starters, but Denver is minus 10.5, and they do need to win to clinch the playoffs. This game matters to Cincinnati and Miami. So if Denver loses, Cincinnati and Miami are still alive. Denver wins, and they go to the playoffs, or with the Dolphins and Bengals loss. And then Miami at the Jets. Dolphins need a win and a Denver Broncos loss to clinch the playoffs. So both of these games are at 4, so you can see there. And then the one game that I was hoping would be good this week is Seattle at the Rams, but the Rams clinched that division, so this game means absolutely nothing, and that's why the Rams are resting all of their starters. And then to end the weekend on Sunday night, we have the one legit good game of the weekend: the Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions, and this will determine the 1 seed in the NFC, and the loser will be the 5 seed because of how the wild card works. But they will get a nice draw and play most likely the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So not almost like the playoff scenario there, where not too bad of a situation where you lose, you go to Tampa, and then if you win that game, you'll likely get a rematch, or actually you will get a rematch with the team you just lost to. So we could see this Minnesota Detroit matchup. We'll see it right now, and we could very well see it again in the second round of the playoffs.
Oh yeah. I like that. I like the fact that they have that. I don't know if was that was probably already the primetime game, but seems like right after everybody made a big hoopla about the primetime games, they've made
I
them
don't think it was.
because
I don't
last
think it originally was.
I forget what last week primetime game was, but it was
Or I
really
think they don't. I think they don't announce this week. Like I think this week's a permanent. Like everything is a flex.
yeah.
Because I know before the season, Dolphins Jets was listed as a flex, and I thought that was like low key because it could be exciting.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just that's how they do it, which is good. There's some other games like Chicago Green Bay could have had some buzz before the season. Buffalo New England maybe, Giants Philly maybe, but there's Saquon's not going for his record.
Yeah, we
Josh
forgot.
Allen isn't expected to play the whole game there. He might play a quarter, I think, is what I've seen, and it makes it tough to bet. Like there's not many odds out just because. Like Mike Evans is like the most well-known thing. He needs 85 yards for his bonus. Um, and they set the line for his over under at 102. And 102 over 102 is minus 120. It's like, bro, he averages 70 a game. And they're like, well, yeah, he needs 85. And then they launched the line up to 102. It's like, and it's not at all betting places. It's like what we might take the under when it gets closer, like the under 100. But we have Evans in our parlay of the week, so I'm not gonna spoil that yet. I'll save it for Connor. But it's like, he averages 70, you're throwing the line at 102 because you know he needs 85. Like work with us. Like if it's 90, people are gonna bet it. But to just take it over under at 100 because he needs 85 yards, like there's a lot of, he could get his yards and be done and not get the 102. You know what I mean? He doesn't care about the bets. He cares about his bet, and we can't bet, 85 exactly. So kind of, not like we don't have that great of bets. I feel like this week, like, I'm, almost mad about it because we're not putting, the best content for you guys. But that's just the way they set it up for us.
Yeah, rather not put a bunch of bad bets out there than and try to make it so we have a good amount of bets than, like I'd rather
Yeah.
give out quality, well not quality, but what we think is going to be quality bets than force bets like, we felt like we've had to in the past. So I feel like this is a better option. We don't have as many units on the board, but I'd rather be confident in what we put on the board. So
We do have a good one for Sunday night. We are taking Detroit money line, and that's at minus 150. So to sweeten it up a bit, we tossed in Darnold and Jared Goff to each have one passing touchdown. And the reasoning in this game is I really think Detroit cares about that bye. They've done it going to San Francisco and the playoffs and losing. This matters to them. Minnesota's kind of just, almost like Minnesota's almost like playing on house money. It feels like they weren't supposed to, like maybe they're supposed to make the playoffs in their own heads, but they definitely could not have expected themselves being 14-2. So the fact that they're alive for this, like we said, it could be a rematch. So maybe if you're Ben Johnson, you're gonna do all your trick plays because you're cool and they look great on social media and whatever. But I think Kevin O'Connell is more of like the, inclined to be like, all right, well, since we expect to see you guys soon, um, we're not going to show you what we want to use against you in the playoffs. So stuff like that could be in play here. Detroit's the favorite, and it is in Detroit. So, and also I'd like the over under on this one. It's 55.5, like that Ohio State game. But so I don't want to bet it because it's that high, but I could very well see us getting into the 60s and 70s in this one.
definitely, definitely. Does that leave just the plow?
That leaves just the plow.
All right, well then I guess I'll get into that. So we have a plow. That's our only weekly special this week is the plow. It's a five-legger. I went pretty heavy on the player incentives like we talked about. So I'll go through the whole ticket and then I'll kind of explain the incentives that we're talking about there. And then we'll kind of that's how we'll loop around. So this is the ticket for the plow right here. We've got Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown. Mike Evans, 80 plus receiving yards. Cortland Sutton, 80 plus receiving yards. Geno Smith, 200 plus passing yards. And then Seattle money line. That's a five-leg parlay for 499 odds. I put half a unit on it to win 2.496 units. So now let's go on into the player incentives to explain why we picked what we picked. So, Geno Smith, we'll start with him. He needs to pass for 186 passing yards for a $2 million bonus with his incentives. So I just have him for 200, especially with them playing the Rams that aren't playing their starters. And then he needs Seattle to win. So for Seattle to get their 10th win, and he gets another $2 million bonus. So Geno Smith is playing for $4 million. This weekend. So that's why I picked him. A player I really wanted to pick that I didn't pick because his odds weren't out yet was Tony Pollard. He needs 83 rushing yards for a $250,000 bonus and then two touchdowns for another 250K, but I couldn't find his odds and I didn't want to pick his two touchdowns because it's a little risky. Back to the plow. We need Derrick Henry needs one touchdown for him to get a $500,000 bonus. So I see them letting him get in the end zone and then not really running them that much after that and just kind of taking their win. Cortland Sutton needs 82 receiving yards for 500K. So I see that's why I have him at 80 plus. Mike Evans needs 85 yards for him to get 1,000 yards, as everybody knows, as everybody's tracking him getting 1,000 yards. So that's why I picked Mike Evans. And I believe that wraps up all of the people that I bet on. It does. So
You
we've
said you said you got Sutton needing 80
he needs
for
82 for I
how
believe
much money?
$500,000.
I got it as 2 mil.
Okay, maybe it's 2 mil. So
So I wanted to show this. This is on IG. If you go to Blez Bets, this is a full spreadsheet of the incentives. You can't see it on the Zoom, but go check it out. There's like at least 30 on here, full page of what it is, what they need to get, and how much money they'd get. So we got some like that Sutton one, I believe is at 2 million for 82 plus receiving yards. And then you got other ones like some guys to get a sack for 250,000.
Yeah,
Maybe don't bet those ones, but these big ones like Mike Evans is 5 catches and 85 yards for an extra 3 million. That matters to these guys. Gino is a 2 million one. So but then also some of these smaller contracts, like Arden Key, he's 1.5 sacks for 500K. That's proportionally more money to somebody like him than maybe 3 millions is to Mike Evans.
hmm
So um, definitely things to keep an eye out, especially when we get closer to game time, as we'll get maybe some of these defensive props, a lot of sacks on there. Some Dolphins need some sacks. Calais Campbell needs a sack, stuff like that. But we don't have those odds yet. FanDuel's kind of being an ops. They have more or less lines than really any other book. So definitely got to be on the lookout. So
for
we'll see
sure.
what they will be active on the Twitter this weekend.
Yeah, I know Zach Ertz has a lot of incentives up this
Yeah.
weekend. The ones that I have down, he's got if he gets 2 touchdowns, he gets $250,000. 9 catches, he gets $250,000, and 90
Yep.
receiving yards, he gets 250. Those are kind of hard
Yep.
numbers to get, but I would maybe look out for that. 9 catches for a tight end isn't crazy bad. It depends on how they're playing that game.
The
If they're
9 catches is probably more likely than the 2 touchdowns or the
but the
90
two
yards.
touchdowns kind of yeah, and then that's why I
Although he
was
had two like a week ago, did he not? He had two
yeah, I
against
think he did.
Philly.
Yeah, he had a good game when they won in overtime.
But
I
yeah,
think.
the problem with these like incentives, like they're great. I want to see these dudes get their bag. Like I think everybody does. But
Mhm.
like Mike Evans is going against New Orleans defense who isn't playing anybody because they're done and they're all injured anyway. So like he's averaging 70, but the books are making these lines crazy bad value because they know they're not playing anybody and they're not putting lines out. Like Miami and the Jets game, like there's incentives in that one, but there's Miami, we don't know who Miami's playing yet. Like it's most likely gonna be Huntley. So how are you gonna bet player prop? Like they can't make lines for Tyreek and A-Chain and stuff because we don't know who's playing quarterback and how that's gonna mess with it. Like you can't make Josh Allen bets because we don't think he's gonna play the full game. So that's why it's really going to be a sloppy weekend of football. Like this might be one of the ones like I usually get like 4 games going, and I'm flipping even on with those 4 games to get everything in. This weekend, there's going to be some games where don't even bother turning it on. There's no impact. Like Chicago and Green Bay, I believe, is locked into the sixth slot in the NFC. So like something like that is not going to be much reason to watch. Like Jacksonville versus Indy, there's absolutely no reason to watch that. Both teams are eliminated. Um, so it's gonna be a weekend, not a good one. Hopefully not too bad. Maybe something exciting. Maybe I think the biggest thing would be Kansas City putting a run against Denver.
Yeah,
That'd get real interesting, but that's also because I'm a Dolphins fan.
yeah,
But then hopefully, Saturday's games are good, and then Minnesota and Detroit live up to the hype to end the weekend out, and then we can get some real bets because we know everybody's gonna be playing and locked in for the playoffs. That's when betting on the playoffs is almost just as important as betting on the whole season.
yeah. So we'll look forward to that. We'll see what's we'll see what's going on day of. So Saturday and Sunday. Look out on our Twitter for that. We are normally very active on game days on Twitter. So check out on that. Um, we'll be putting out potential additional bets out on there, but if not, we'll just be talking about our bets that we have out during the games. And then yeah, we will see you guys next week. We'll recap this and we'll talk about um the next week of college football then. Other than that, I hope you guys have a good week. Um, and we'll see you guys on Monday or Tuesday, whatever one we decide on, all right?
Probably Monday. No Monday Night Football this week.
Oh yeah, probably Monday. We'll see you guys on Monday.